We've had this house a little over 40 years. A group of people in Clinton thought we ought to have some kind of a thing to show what the farmers had to go through to get to where we are today. And it's evolved from that. Well, I enjoy seeing people come through here and looking at our machinery. This is a breaking plow. It was made by John Deere. This was the first plow that pioneers that came to this country used. We called it a breaking plow because it was the first time the ground was broken. When the pioneers came here, the grass was tall. It would be 3 or 4 or 5, 6 feet tall. And it had a massive roots in the ground. And so this plow had to cut these roots, and the moldboard would turn it over. And that took a lot of effort because this had to be pulled either by 4 or 6 head of horses or 6 head of oxen. Now we talk about the oxen, that they were probably the first power that the people that came here into Illinois used, because it was easier to buy an ox, and took less money than it was to buy a horse at that time. A farmer only plowed maybe 3 or 4 or 5 acres in the first year, and ensuing years he didn't plow as much as we plow today. So it was a small job, but the reason he wanted to plow so he could raise corn and wheat, because he had to have that to live off of. At that time they did not sell any, not like we do today, but they grazed it for their own meat needs. And this is another plow. This is a wooden plow, all wood. Moldboard is wood, but they had a share down on the bottom that was cast iron. And this plow, we believe, came from the East Coast, where it was used before pioneers came to Illinois. And we think that this was probably tied up alongside of his wagon as he moved here to Illinois. And they tried to use it, but the rich soil here in the Mississippi Valley was sticky, and it would stick on the wooden moldboard, and then they plow a little ways and have to get it sticking and push it off and plow a little ways and continue that, and it became quite a job. So some of the pioneers that first came here went back because they said it couldn't be plowed. Then we move on here, and this is called a Silky. This was made by Van Diver Plow Company in Quincy, Illinois. It's a one-bottom plow, and this plow here was pulled by a team of horses, and now we see a seat on the back of this so the farmer could ride on it rather than walk behind it. Now, when he used this plow here, if he plowed 4 or 5 acres in 1 year, he would probably have walked 17 miles behind the plow. So now we see that it's now we have the seat on the back, and but it took 3 horses to pull this, where this one only took 2. This took 3 horses. And then this is a disc. This disc was probably pulled by 4 horses, and after the ground was plowed, this disc was used to stir the ground and level it off and cover up all the weeds that were growing at that time before they planted it. Up till this time, the pioneers planted all their corn with the hoe, garden hoe. So now we see a corn planter, a 2-row corn planter. Like this planter here was first used by a farmer who had a team of horses, and he wanted to plant two rows at a time. And these were the boxes where he put the seed corn in. And the first thing he done was go crossways at the field with this corn planter, and he did not put any corn in the boxes. The runners would make a line on the ground, and then he turned around and planted it lengthways, and then he put his corn in here, and he actually planted the corn at that time. Now, he had no way of working the corn planter, so he had his boy sitting on this seat, and whenever the planter crossed one of his lines that he made when he was going crossways, the boy would trip it twice and get two kernels of corn in each hill. Now, after a couple hours like that, the boy got kind of tired. The dad was sitting right behind him, and he'd give him a poke in the rear to wake him up. But then a few years after they planted with these here, they invented the wire, and they strung the wire the full length of the field. Now, he didn't make the marks crossways of the field now, because they put this wire the full length of the field, and it would trip it. You would put that wire in here and would trip it. So the boy lost his job. And now, of course, after the corn was up and growing, the weeds also came up with the corn, and so we had to cultivate it through the rows. The rows, the corn was down through here, and they had these shovels. They worked the dirt, and they would also cut the weeds and the grass. And they usually cultivated corn at least 3 times in the year. Now we have the reaper. The reaper was used to cut the wheat and make bundles out of the wheat. Before this was manufactured, the men had to use what we call the cradle. They swung that and cut the wheat off, and they would dump that wheat in a bundle, and somebody else had to walk along and tie it into a bundle. So they'd stand them bundled up on an end so they could dry out, and so it could be threshed. And then in order to thresh the kernel out of the head, they used this flail right here, and they would spread the wheat out on the ground and sometimes they run cattle over the top of it, or use the flail to beat it out, right? And so McCormick built this machine here. It was the first machine that was ever made to take some of the work off the back of the farmer. He changed the way the farmers farmed in the United States, and it was used around the world.